Pro Forma night. How you doing? It is almost 1 o'clock Eastern, and I'm on a deliberately later start time. Uh, so here we go, and I just want to emphasize that uh, uh, among other things,
How you doing?
by a spreadsheet, and we're going to discuss information that matters. Okay, because prior to this pandemic, which we are still in the middle of, note there's no what has appeared where we can even hope to dream of a situation where we can go out, get a shot, go out and like, hey, good, high five everybody, and we're back to normal, right? Uh, those days are long gone. And one thing is very true, and I certainly hope you've got your stimulus money, by the way. One thing that's certainly true is this: our economy has shrank, and we have to now start looking at not just the economy of the United States, but also more pertinent to the National Football League, the Raiders, Allegiant Stadium, Las Vegas Stadium situation in a different light. Okay. And before I get to the numbers part, there is something I want to show you that I believe that you really need to see and purely pay attention to. And it's this. This is something that came up way back, as they say, uh, during the time that the basic details of the stadium and how it would look were being discussed, and that's this. This is total stadium annual revenue, which was projected at that time at 264 million in a year. Look at what it consisted of. Among other things, let's move in a bit on this, and let's make them a little bigger as they come in. And here they are, and they're a little bigger. Events, 46 to be exact, 46 events, and roughly about four, a little less than four large events a month over a 12-month, 1 year period. And then President and now CEO of MGM Results, Bill Hornbuckle, at first questioned the ability of the Raiders and Majestic Realty was the original developer involved, along with Las Vegas Sands, to get that many large events. We're not talking about weddings. We're not talking about banquets. We're not talking about your high school prom. We're talking about Final Four events. We're talking about the Blue Man Group. We're talking about Taylor Swift's large level concerts. You get the idea? 46 of those. Four, basically three and one quarter events, 3.12 events each month that bring in between 30,000 and 60,000 people, okay, or 65,000 people. Not including, okay, that's those events plus the NFL events. So the NFL events only count to about 8 games. So really, you take that, you're still looking at 38 events. And that's a lot of events throughout the year. Large scale. Hornbuckle questioned that. So if Hornbuckle were questioning that and then later signed on to the possibility when MGM Resorts saw a place where they could put their own events, right? What does it say now that we're in the middle of a pandemic and such event producers as Cirque du Soleil have had to file for bankruptcy and let go of their people. It means that that 46 event number goes substantially down. And if it goes down, what happens? Then it means that this 46 events does not translate to 264 million. Okay. And note the number of suites, only 70. There's about double that now. These are stadium operating assumptions at the time. All right. So where we are is in a place where the silent thought, something that's not talked about, is how to fix this situation. Will it be done by a federal bailout? When will that come? No one seems to know. And there's a big reason no one seems to know. It's because of the long list of people and institutions that stand in front of the Raiders and the Las Vegas Stadium Authority in line to collect the check. And one can only hope that the organizations that stand in front of them that collect the check will trickle some of that money down to them. This is a space where creative deal making really is in the offing, really is necessary. Because right now, this is what we're looking at in terms of the total impact, the total number of that will come to bear in this entire mess. And that pure information is here. As I alluded to the other night, this is a spreadsheet that if you're a regular viewer of my work here, you've seen this many times before, and you've in a sense grown up with it. This is a spreadsheet that I started working on initially in 2016, and then I honed and refined it, and then really threw it out there in 2017, and I'll continue to hone and refine it ever since. This latest version of the Stadium Pro Forma essentially takes the 30 years of stadium life and pushes it, if you will, into one column, the two columns, really the A and the B column, of stadium performance over a 30-year period. So there's a lot encapsulated in that. But I'm going to take you through what's there. This plus this actually equals the $1,970 million of construction cost for the stadium. This offsite transportation infrastructure cost reflects two facts. A, we don't know what the true cost is because they haven't told us. B, the closest we know to the true cost for this area comes from the Nevada Department of Transportation when they put out a transportation study on the 16th of November of 2017 during the Nevada legislature's consideration for what became Senate Bill 1 that gave life to the $747 million subsidy and the enabling and is the enabling legislation and Bible, if you will, for the Las Vegas Stadium Authority with respect to developing the stadium and the Las Vegas Convention Center expansion. So that document scared everybody, and it caused votes to come to a razor thin margin of passage for the project. So it could go either way. I set the middle ground at 450 million. Okay. I could choose to drop it and play around with it, and I'll do that in this session. 100 million is for the practice facility. You know about that. And it's a project cost. Contingency is 100 million. Total project cost with all of this. And remember, this 450 million is the wild card, right? $2,620,000,000. Team investment, $500 million. Surplus PSL revenue is reflective of the 224 million in change in additional PSL that were sold. Surplus PSL revenue. The $747 million public subsidy. Now, the public investment for roads, no, I wrote source, right? Okay. This is a cost. Again, we don't know what this cost is, but ideally what you want is you want this 450 to be matched by whatever is in this cell. So far, all that's known is, 15 million for the refurbishment and upgrade of a part of the of an I-15 interchange nearby. The rumored pedestrian bridge at 30 million. The Southern Nevada Regional Transportation Commission at one point said, well, the Raiders are going to have to pay for that when Christian Giuliani was on it. I don't know if they've changed their stance just yet. Then there's, of course, this private investment. This reflects the Bank of America loan of $600 million. Remember, that has to be paid back by interest. So total funding sources right now are what? $2,087 million, which means what? We have a shortfall of $533 million. That shortfall reflects the transportation money that's not accounted for. All right. That shortfall reflects the transportation money that's not accounted for. Now, if you're saying, geez, Zinni, where is the sponsorship money, right? My answer to you would be that since I'm following as faithful as possible, the original SNTIC spreadsheet with respect to order. No, I've changed the number to reflect reality as reality has changed. Right? We went from fantasy to reality. What they did was sponsorship is backed into two areas here. This one, first one, I'm highlighting where it says total annual event revenue. Total annual event revenue is reflective of the events. Remember the number of events that we discussed in the original? Well, actually, it comes to roughly $934 million to Stadco. That's Raiders money. So in other words, if you're saying, hey, look, there's a $234 million that was supposed to be annual revenue, it's actually more than that. But if you take that, but what Stadco makes over the 30-year period is almost $1 billion. That's $934 million. And that reflects it's approximately 11% of the total that Stadco gets. So it's important not to be confused by the earlier estimate that I showed you from the stadium operating assumptions page, where we looked at total stadium revenue being at $264 million, because that's total revenue. But of the total revenue, Stadco gets its cut. And Stadco needs that cut to run the stadium. All right. Event producers keep the rest. Okay. Event producers keep the lion's share, okay, of the money. So let me take some of all of your comments before I get too far down the pipe here, because they're extensive. First of all, welcome everybody, and I'll start at top here. I believe Raiders SP was saying, I'm going to highlight these. I'm going to go up and highlight these one-on-one and see if I can put them in the screen so you'll see them. Okay. Raiders SP says, everyone is impacted by this virus, sports, small business, etc. I believe I will bounce back, but will be a while here in California. Just extended shelter in place is supposed to end May 3rd. Yes, now it's by June, which is completely wild because at midnight, an hour ago, we're free in Georgia. We can go free. We can get affected and stuff. Okay, so wow. Who's your daddy? How you doing? Who's your daddy? Says Azini. I just tuned in. You're probably talking about the recently reported 67% decline projected in room tax revenue. Now, I'm not talking about that here, because that's not going to affect the bond issue itself. In other words, the proceeds for the bond issue have already come in. Okay, now paying it back is the long-term story, and that's where two organizations have to fret: the Las Vegas Stadium Authority and Clark County, because Clark County itself is projecting, unless of course the federal government comes in with a bailout, and I pray that they do, a $1 billion deficit. And 2022 will be the year that, absent a bailout adequate to solve Clark County's basic problems, including bond issues, including this one, okay? Absent that, when the debt service reserve of $56.8 million, which is already underfunded, it was supposed to be at $90.2 million. That's the one thing that the Las Vegas Stadium Authority does not tell you, but it is reported in the document for January of this year for the stadium financial picture, the stadium financial report. It shows you that there is a $34 million outstanding fund balance. In other words, monies that were not added and put in to get them to $90.2 million in debt service reserve. So they're talking about this, not telling the public that, hey, their debt service reserve is underfunded, and it has been that way for some time. All right? So I'm not talking about that, though, in this case. I'm talking about the entire flow of funds, the entire funds from revenue that comes to Stadco, which is the Raiders. It's roughly 11.3% cut of the total revenue from the stadium annually and through its life. Annually, it was to be $264 million. All right? And I'm sure that's changed somewhat, but I'm going with what I have, and I can adjust it. And I've adjusted a number of these estimates because I find out about something someplace else and make an adjustment another place to fit the puzzle, right? Now, so what I have what I believe is a reasonable facsimile of reality. Now, so there you go. Who's your daddy? Raiders SP says the city of Vegas and Mark will get this issue solved. I'm sure they will put their money together. I'm sure they know they have issues. Well, look, here's the thing, Raiders SP. I don't assume anybody has the answer, particularly in an area where I have a specialization in. That's why I do this. Because we went from, let's see here, 2015 NFL owners meeting, spring league meeting. Mark Davis says, then you come up with a plan. I do. I get Piper Jaffray Investment Bankers, one of the top 10 investment bankers in the world, to give me a conference call with 5 of their top employees. They look at my spreadsheet, they bless it, say you, on top of that, thought of everything. Then Oakland Council member Rebecca Kaplan and Scott McKibben of the JPA both looked at it. Scott, who ran the Rose Bowl and who took the JPA from deficit to surplus, said, Zinni, you crossed every I, or crossed every T and dotted every I. I gave one to the mayor's office. I gave it to Libby. Libby never got back to me. Mark didn't. And when I went to Mark to talk with him about the spreadsheet in Schaumburg at the special NFL owners meeting in 2015, I said, my first words out of my mouth to Mr. Davis were these: Mr. Davis, I have $2 billion for you, because I had carved out $2 billion of revenue for him from the Raiders Stadium. I was eager to show him how I did it. He acted like he was afraid to talk to me. Okay? So then let's go from there. When the whole matter of Vegas came up, I kept paying attention, and I noted that The hotel tax originally was at 1%, which is cool. But then they started flirting with one that was 7/10 of 1%. And that's when I went to work doing the calculations. And before then, I was trying to figure out why they were using a debt coverage ratio of 1.5 to 1 rather than 2. So I made a 3-column spreadsheet showing that the reason why they picked a debt coverage ratio of 1.5 to 1 rather than 2 was so they would need a lower tax rate. Because what happens is this: if you have to only get, for every dollar of debt, just 50 cents more, what does it mean? It means that your tax rate can be lower. All right. Why does your tax rate need to be lower? Because you don't want to scare your casino hotel partners to the government that you're going to price their hotels out of competition with such cities as Chicago, New York, San Francisco. They're very much afraid of that. So elasticity of demand for hotels and pricing is a big concern in Las Vegas and Clark County and the region, and rightly so. That's their cash cow. That's their employment, as we see today, okay? They were right to be concerned about it, but they were too concerned, so much so that they didn't leave themselves a cushion. Had they done the standard procedure, which is follow the lead of the Las Vegas Convention and Visitors Authority, use a 3 to 1. In other words, for every $1 of debt, you have $3 of revenue. Folks, they would have had enough revenue such that they could have given themselves 2 years to dig out of this thing. That's how serious this is. Before the taxpayers would even be touched. All right? Maybe 2, maybe 3 years. That's how much of a difference is. And that's why the Las Vegas Convention Center expansion has nothing to worry about. Because the Las Vegas Convention and Visitors Bureau has always had a beyond scared approach to financing, which I think is fantastic. Why? Because unlike this project, which is a general obligation bond, the Las Vegas Convention and Visitors Authority, uses something called a lease revenue bond structure. What is that? It means that the flow of the hotel tax that's imposed, once that's imposed, that's it. In other words, they take that and they can't run out. They can't lean on the general fund. Their money is their money. So they have to have an extra cushion. So that hence the 3 to 1. $3 of revenue for every $1 of debt. That's the way they structure it. If their project's too small, guess what? Too big, they scale it back to get a smaller project, lower cost, lower bond issue costs. All right? That wasn't the case for the Raiders situation. Okay? It's totally different and very reckless. So, all right? So, Raiders SP, that's why I do what I do. I never assume anybody has the right idea when it's something that I know. I believe in the Lord Jesus Christ. Okay? And it stops there. Raiders SP says, this project is too big for Las Vegas not to get this worked out. Like you said, Vegas been wanting to have an NFL team for a while. I don't know how they will get it out of this debt. I'm more worried about how our, see here. I think he continues on. Oops. Sorry, Raiders SP. I'm trying to get, worried about how our country is going to get out of this debt. I'm worried about it now because our country is too slow to respond. We're a wealthy country. We could cough up $9 trillion like that. Okay. I know Gary Cohn, our former chairman of Council of Economic Advisors, said that, if we looked at $5 trillion, which I think is, only covers the households, well, technically it does. All right. It doesn't begin to cover the rest of our economy. But he said that we would be taxing the world's ability to absorb or want to absorb our debt. And then the interest rates would go up. But wait a minute. We could apply price controls and interest rate controls and temper that on the basis of the fact that it's an emergency. I would hope we're not going away as a nation. And so we have to look at this as a long-term debt problem. I say long-term, I mean 60 years. That's how we have to look at it. Otherwise, we're not going to get out of this. We also have to look at this as a fight It really is not a fight. Because have you noticed that everything is a fight today? We have to look at this as a challenge to maintain our standard of living. Otherwise, our standard of living is going to go down the tubes like a third world country. And you should be afraid of that more than anything else in the world. Period. End of story. You should insist on your government not giving you freedom to move around, but in giving you the money you need to maintain your standard of living or have hopes for what's called income mobility from lower income to high income, which is what has always made us quintessentially American. That should be your concern above all else. So, all right. And Radius PSP says, yep. And so Radius PSP then says, I'm worried how our country is going to get out of this debt. I talked about that. Then he says, even though I'm happy with stimulus money, it was not enough for bills, which means you got yours, right? Yeah. And so John Acosta says, do the Raiders have an out clause in the Vegas stadium deal? They have. That's a great question, John. And I took up on that question some time ago, where I said the out clause essentially had to do with the whole issue regarding the bond issue and the amount of money they did not get, which they could make an argument, hey, you didn't give us enough money for the pay-go, all right? And which, I mean, if they wanted to make that argument and make it stick, they could do so. Because if they wanted to really, really be blankety blanks, all right, they could turn around and say, hey, you know what? You didn't forecast a pandemic, and we're in this big problem. And therefore, oh, and by the way, this is interrupting our ability to get for our sponsors to succeed. You didn't have enough back money for us to collect. You didn't plan this outright. We trusted you. Because once, the Raiders had placed themselves in a position where, they weren't really so much, they weren't driving the financial picture, someone else was. That's always been the Raiders' modus operandi. You design it, public sector. We'll ride with you until things go wrong for us. And because you designed it, we'll figure out where it went wrong and we'll blame you. Now, in this instance, I do not forecast the Raiders even beginning to exhibit such a behavior. There's too much risks from too many different directions. There are too many people to piss off in Las Vegas that they are indelibly linked to, all right? In such a way that I could see one picture where they could very well drag down the NFL with them to a degree. The NFL would have to make some very hard decisions under this scenario that I'm thinking of that I don't want to utter. But is it possible? It's possible, okay? Because of where the Raiders decided to go and what they decided to do. Now, and what they were aided in doing. Donis says, hey, Zinni, I hope you're well and healthy. Donis, same to you, my friend. I appreciate your saying that and asking. Thank you very much. Are the A's going to move? Nope, the A's aren't moving. Raiders just says, Mark should have listened to you back then. He should have. And here's the thing. I'm saying that because here I am. He probably thought I was going to say, hey, man, I did this. You owe me X, right? Dollars. I'll be really honest with you. I've said this before. I'll say it again. Getting paid wasn't in my mind. I was actually honored that he asked me. That's an honor to have the owner of the Raiders say, you come up with a stadium plan. Because I think financial plan, why? Because when I first met Mark over here in Buckhead at the 2014 NFL owners meeting, he said, I've got $400 million in my pocket. And I remember it was funny because Bedane, I went over to say hello to everybody, and Bedane was kind of like, put me his hand on my shoulder like that, kind of like, and I said, hey, we're brothers. What are you doing that for? And he relaxed. And Mark said, I've got $400 million in my pocket for the stadium. And I started doing some quick figuring out. So I talked to him about the past. He goes, I don't want to hear about the past. I said, okay, fine. But I realized they'd given me a story scoop, so I went over. And I went over and I did this. Okay, hold on a second, because this is kind of something that I feel like I gotta show, because it's kind of a funny little thing that funny little backstory. million. Oh, a second. That I'm telling you about that happened. Uh, and and uh, and I reported, and because it just gives you a window into how things are working out. Okay. And yes, here we go. I just found it. Okay. And let me freeze that. Put that here. And then let me swap out some things here. Swap this out. Go here. And see if I can grab it. Right there. And here it is. Okay. And I'll allow. And there it is, folks. Right here. I just had a rather lively discussion with Raider owner Mark Davis about Coliseum City. And he says the Raiders have $400 million to commit to a stadium, wants to know where the Coliseum City developers are. He's waiting for something to happen. And basically, the problem is that you've got the Raiders waiting for something to happen on their end, then other people waiting on Coliseum City. Everyone's waiting on the other person, and there's no champion. The person who was the champion, Fred Blackwell, is going to the San Francisco Foundation. And if you look around, there's no one that really seems to be taking the bull by the horns and doing more than saying we want it to happen, except the fact that the Raiders have some skin they want to put into the game in terms of $400 million. So that's the latest from the NFL owners meeting here at the Ritz-Carlton Buckhead in Atlanta. Okay, right there. I at that point scooped big time Ian Rappaport and the NFL Network because Bourdain had got on his BlackBerry and started texting something. I thought, he's going to give those guys a scoop. All right. And so as soon as Mark said that, I said something creative to basically excuse myself for a moment, went to the conference room and made that, and then immediately uploaded it via my smartphone, and boom, there it was. Okay. Out. Got him. You should have seen the look on Ian's face. It was hilarious because I had scooped them. It was on Twitter. I had scooped them by a full 2 hours. 2 hours. All right. So anyway, okay, old joy. All right. So let me get back to your comments here, and I think Raiders SP says, "Yep." And Mark jumped the gun on this move without studying the economy of Vegas. But then again, no one saw this virus happening. I don't think it was so much that. Look, let me put it this way, it wasn't that. Even without this virus, okay, the bond deal was still in trouble. It was still underfunded. All right. What happened was that, first of all, before the virus problem, Las Vegas visitor trends had already leveled off. They're trending downward overall after really enjoying a healthy upward that saw them set a record in 2016 and 17. And then they came down. Really, it wasn't a lot of people will say to you, oh, it had something to do with the events of 1 October, and that's what I call them. No, it wasn't 1 October. The decline in hotel visitor rates happened not after 1 October. They happened 6 months before 1 October. 1 October was not the cause. And I went back and analyzed the numbers on a month-by-month basis using the Las Vegas Convention and Visitors Authority's numerical spreadsheets that one can download from their site, and came to that conclusion. It wasn't 1 October. Las Vegas really resiliently stood up against that. What it was were these consistently high and higher resort fees. You know, they start off at $12 years ago, then they went to $20, and now in many cases they're as high as $50, maybe more. And then they started cutting things like there's no free drinks when you gamble in some places or play a slot. Then the slots stop paying off, and hey, look, you lose your longtime elderly customers like my mom and my late stepdad. You lose. That's the heartland of America. When you lose the heartland of America, guess what? You start going down the tubes, and that's what was happening with Las Vegas. They started turning to Macau and Asia because the gambling rate was larger and greater. On top of that, we are at a place in this country. You've heard me say this before. I hope you are within an hour's drive of a casino anywhere in the United States. Who gets hurt by that? Las Vegas. All right. So Las Vegas, this is the worst thing that could happen to Las Vegas on top of everything else that was in play before the virus. You understand what I'm saying? Before the virus. Okay. So let's see here. Oakland A's are staying. Yeah. And Raiders SP says, do you see any sports happening this year? I see esports happening this year. Yeah, esports. And I really want to see sports come back. I want to see women's sports come back big because women are really impacted by this exceptionally more because their dollar payments are lower even for pro sports. So gambling and image purchasing can really help women's sports. I am a huge women's sports fanatic and I'm a big believer and lover of women athletes. Okay. And I'll take that as you want. I don't care. Okay. And so it's without the virus, women's sports were doing this. Why? Because now the NCAA said, hey, you know what? They can make money from their likeness. Boy, what a game changer for women, right? Look at all those Instagram models you see that also happen to play a sport or be, cross-trained, crossfitters, right? Phew, can clean up on their image. That's great. And then if they happen to play in a high-profile sport, like look at Lindsey Vonn with skiing or any of the other great women's sport participants, or look at Hope Solo with soccer or anyone else. Hope Solo is going to have twins, by the way. I think she's a mom by now. They can clean up, right? But not getting that ability to get out before the audience because of the coronavirus really has retarded the growth potential in women's sports that was just about to really hit before all this started. And so Patrick M. Blackman, how you doing? Mr. Blackman, I need you to email me with your email address and your true name, because I have stock I need to get to you. Okay. So I've held a place for you. I need to take care of that as soon as possible. I'm saying that publicly. Okay. All right. And Raiders SP says to you, Patrick, and then he says, Zinni, you should be an agent or something because you have very good sports knowledge about things. Thanks. I'll leave the agency to my friend Lee Steinberg and my friend Norbik. And also Eric Metz, whose client got University of Arizona quarterback, University of Virginia quarterback, was just picked up by the Rams earlier this week. Congratulations to him in free agency. That'll make you lose your hair. Oh boy. I don't know how they do it. Lee's the consummate professional, but he went through a lot himself in terms of stress. No, thank you. No, thank you. No. Raiders SP says, yep, the truth, Mark should have stayed in the Bay Area. Hey, on the other hand, Oakland has an opportunity to rebuild its sports economy, and it should consider doing so, even though the meetings, incentives, conventions, and entertainment industry has taken a big hit. It's going to rebound. And I think it's going to rebound in a different way, in a very exciting way with technology, particularly technology like this, feeding into events and venues. It's going to be interesting. Can't wait to see what happens. It's going to be different, a little smaller, but still because of population growth and demand. Okay. I wouldn't sit back lightly on that if I were the city of Oakland. Raiders SP says LeBron got mad today because someone said NBA thinking of canceling NBA season. Yeah, that's his money. John Akala says, I think there will be an NFL season in 2020, but will be without or with a very limited amount of fans. And that gets to, John, I'm glad you said that. That gets to a point I want to make. Some time ago, there was a thought about discussions about the NFL of the future, stadiums of the future, that the audiences would be smaller. The ticket prices would be higher. There would be more luxury affairs, right? I think we're seeing that. I think the days of Super Bowls drawing 70,000 people are, for all practical purposes, over. And I believe the coronavirus has hastened the appearance of those times. People not traveling less, people more accustomed to staying at home, people needing a bigger incentive to go out, people not having money because of the economic damage. All of that will factor into this. It's going to. It's unavoidable. The next Super Bowl in coming up, it's in LA, right? Can you imagine seeing that Super Bowl sold out? How's the NFL going to pull that off at normal ticket prices? Right? Okay. Raiders SP has an interesting comment. He says they could have virtual watch live games like they did in the draft. Yeah, they could, which I thought was a great thing. But the practical question of who can afford a $1,000 to $3,000 Super Bowl ticket is now up in the air. Okay. And you said no Tampa. And I stand corrected. You're right. It's in Tampa. Thank you for that. Thank you. It's in Tampa. So Super Bowl's in Tampa. That's right. And so wouldn't it be crazy if Jameis Winston wound up quarterbacking the New Orleans Saints and leading them that to Tampa? Well, actually, the next year it's in LA. It would have to be the next year, wouldn't it? Okay, fine. Or you never know. Crazy things can happen. Injuries and such, retirements and such. You never know. But I digress. Let me go back to what we were originally talking about regarding the spreadsheet, because I've not at all gotten through that, and I want to reemphasize what I was talking about and showing you there regarding the impact of the pandemic on the performance. So where we left off was in looking at, I discussed what total event revenue is, and I said that what you're looking at is roughly 11.3% of the total. That's what Staghold, that's what the Raiders get, which is pretty good. Okay. Total non-event revenue here. All right. Let me show you what I did. Originally, total non-event revenue was this. This reflected the naming rights agreements and sponsorships. All right. So if this were at 1, in other words, 100%, it's 800 million. What does that reflect? It reflects an estimate that consists of, you can see the formula up there. It's a little bitty, but it consists of the Allegiant Airlines agreement at 400 million, plus an estimate of roughly, say, 20 million from other sources over a 20-year period, okay, to give you $800 million in total non-event or sponsorship revenue. Now, before you say, hey, Zinni, the total lease agreements for 30 years, I hear you, it could be extended beyond that, or maybe it might be less or more. Keep in mind this, the original, do you know what the original Southern Nevada SNTIC estimate was? It was for 399 million at that source. So this is substantially more, which means they underestimated. Okay. Total stadium event revenue, $1,734,323,450. Estimated stadium operating expense, all right, that comes from SNTIC documents note 4. That's $646 million over the life of the stadium. Total stadium net operating income is a hefty positive of $1,088,000,000 approximately. Debt service and capital, $984 million here. That includes the Bank of America. That includes the Bank of America loan, the Raiders development loan debt with LIBOR. All right. And there's a capital expenditure of $75 million, which comes up to $1,059,000,000. All right. So I could turn around and say, all right, let's take out one part of this and see what this looks like. Let's just leave it to the Bank of America. The Bank of America is the $600 million in LIBOR, okay? So we've got this, all right? So we have free stadium operating cash flow of $388,364,000, okay? Which leaves us with a total project operating cash flow, which is in the ballpark of being able to attack at negative $144 million, right? Now, all of that is contingent upon one thing here. The sponsorship of $800 million. But what if we only get, let's say, 50% of it? So we put this at 0.5. All right. Then what happens? We're looking at $544 million. Let me get rid of the Raiders SP comment here. All right. Let me get rid of that. All right. Now you can see that. Sorry about that. All right. That's negative $544 million. All right. We have a free stadium operating cash flow annually of roughly 11.6 million. Negative. All right. We have this albatross hanging over our head in terms of construction, which is called this off-site transportation infrastructure costs. Now, to the extent that the state picks up all of this, which you ain't seeing, folks, all right, guess what? You're cool. But right now with a pandemic, you don't see that, which means you have streets and roads around the stadium that are not adequate to handle the traffic demands of a 65,000 seat Raiders game. You understand? They're not. It doesn't matter that the roads around the stadium immediately are being paved and everything. They're being repaved, but not widened. There's a whole widening and refurbishing plan. All right. So it's one thing to say, oh, well, I think the stadium is ready, but you've got to consider the grounds. Okay. And the NFL is not going to just walk in and say, okay, you're ready. That's one reason, one large reason why I believe they're talking about moving the season back, because they don't want Las Vegas to start off on the wrong foot. And there's a great reason for that. Folks, can you imagine how incredible it would be to get all of this straightened out at the end of this year and announce that Las Vegas is coming back, and here this is, you have this great, beautiful stadium and this great football team ready to play in it, the Raiders? That's the scenario that everybody wants. All right. I know some of you who are pissed off about the Raiders leaving Oakland. I get that, but you should want Oakland. There's an old saying, folks. The best revenge is success, not Schadenfreude, not wishing ill for somebody else. I don't wish ill for the project. My consistent point was, hey, look, I had the answer. You didn't listen. You told me I didn't know what I was talking about. I do. That's been my issue. And my issue was, oh, you say because I come from Oakland. And that's what a lot of people in Las Vegas who are new to this did. And then they would try to wade into areas that I'm comfortable with, these numbers, and they trip all over themselves all the time. For a simple reason. When Vegas won and Adelson stepped in with $30 billion in wealth, I thought, you know what? End game. Because I always loved Las Vegas. And you always love that free spending, take no prisoners, chances, be an entrepreneur, make it happen sort of thing, right? Quintessentially American. That's what I thought we were up against. And we turned out to be shown the other side, which is sometimes smoke and mirrors. You know, in other words, Las Vegas is show money, whereas the Bay Area is real money. We talked about that before. All right. So my point is, my motivation has been, you know what? Hey, look, here's how you solve your problem. If you're smart, you'll listen. And I have to tell you, having said that, I will say this: the right people in Las Vegas and Clark County respected me enough, including Jessica Colvin, who is the finance director for Clark County, and Guy Hobbs on to listen. And I was very free to share what I knew and what we experienced and everything else, because I don't know that anyone else was. Some people were, with Oakland in particular. There's a professional kind of familia, you know what I mean, where everybody wants each other to succeed. So I know some people don't understand that, but whatever. Maybe get back to my point. $450 million. This is a wild card. And who pays for it is a wild card. Right now, the Raiders should be really fretting at this number and what it really is. Because if the state was supposed to pay for something, you know what? That's gone out the window right now, folks. That's gone out the window right now. That's way down the totem pole in terms of priorities. It just is. They won't say that it is, but in the action, it will be. Trust me. Watch that, okay? Welcome to Zenny62, by the way. All right, so now we're down to, I discussed what total non-event revenue is, right? That's the sponsorships. That's what happens if only 50% comes in. So maybe, let's say what happens if it's like, 70.75%, okay? 600 million, right? So 600 million would put them at a negative 344 million. And that's still not the greatest place to be. But it's better than 50%. It's better than 50%. If they could get another NFL loan, if it's all possible to do that, if they could work a deal with another casino, maybe have a casino as a partner in terms of ownership, that becomes that number becomes something that one can see the ability to absorb. All right? Because if that happens, it effectively push this number up. You'd have a new sponsor. But right now, this number is a wild card. This is a problem. Because sports sponsorship is being impacted all over the place. Sponsors are dropping out left and right. So that's what the pro forma looks like right now, folks. And I'm going to post this updated version as a link to this vlog, to this live stream, so that people can look at it and compare these numbers with the original SNTIC PDF, which I will include. I've done it before. It's been a while. And learn, right? It's a good chance to get to your comments now. John Marks is here. Oh, nope. Athletics aren't moving. Let me see what else I missed here. John Marks. I'm trying to go up here. And missed a few people here. Corey Brown is here. How you doing, Corey? And I believe, yes, okay. They could have, we that's where we were. Then no Tampa there. And John Akala asks, isn't the majority of the revenue for the NFL television anyhow? Well, the NFL is not covered here with respect to that. That's not here. Now, if you're saying could some of that revenue be poured into the stadium problem, that's a question I would have to ask the league. I don't want to pretend that that's something that they're thinking about doing, and then No, I'm not. I'm not certain. That's a question I would have to ask the league. Um, Raiders SP says social distance will the big issue for sports. How will they do that in the stadiums? And see, John, I'm glad you asked that, Raiders SP, because that gets to my point regarding higher ticket prices, smaller stadiums. This is a big reason. This gives the NFL raison d'etre to have those smaller stadiums. Social distancing, right? Social distancing, higher ticket prices, premium seating in games, premium service. You get the idea. It could happen. Watch out. It could happen. Uh, Corey Brown says that would be something for the Raiders to get revenge against both Brady and the Bucks in one fell swoop in the Super Bowl. It would. Yeah, it would, wouldn't it? Although the Bucks and Brady aren't going to the Super Bowl. Uh, Raiders SP says, I guess they could limit the number of people allowed in with face masks and mark the areas 6 feet apart. They could, like they're doing in the stores. And then the Raiders, how you doing, the Raiders? Great to see you here. He says, if that's the case, no one will waste their just-earned money just to not be able to slap another fan's hand during a Tampa Bay celebration, perhaps. And then we have, and he says, would you put that large amount just to be minimalized at a game? I doubt it. It's a great point. John Marks, how you doing? Welcome. Then the Raider says, would you spend, I got that one. He goes, oh, would you spend that large amount just to be minimized at a new stadium? Rather watch it with friends and barbecue. Exactly. That's exactly the point. And that points to a possible sort of, negative spiral, right? Ticket prices go up. You can't afford it. Hotel prices, people might be trying to gouge you to make up for revenue they didn't get before. Those are major disincentives to want to, be at a game. The NFL has always seen of late, not always, but of late has seen its product as more of a studio. Okay. So fans, there have been games where you didn't have a lot of fans, like during the strike season, during the strike years, but the game went on. I remember this famous Monday Night Football game was in Houston. Some dude in the stands fell asleep like this. Zzz. They put the cameras on him. He flipped the bird at him. I'm not going to flip the bird. Okay, it was hilarious. Those were the Cosell years. Raiders SP says, I think people would be happy to go to games, even if they may be limit sports fans are thirsting for sports right now. I agree. The Raiders, if it were my team, I would, he says. The Raiders says, okay. And okay again. John Mark says, Oakland Athletics aren't moving. No, they're not. Raiders SP says, I think he said that because Mark is not very smart. No, Mark's a smart guy. I think Mark, unfortunately, is disrespected because there are people who think he's not smart. And they've treated him accordingly in the past. I don't make that mistake. My only issue with Mark Davis is that Mark has not appropriately respected me for reasons that are whatever, okay? And that's where it would be cool if he changed. Just saying, okay? Young B says, City of Oakland lawsuit dismissed by judge. Yep, discussed that earlier. You missed it, but I also predicted that was going to happen as far back as last Saturday. Why? Because, look, you have a judge that I got the first paragraph or so of the judge's decision uses the relocation fee as the hurdle. The relocation fee is not the hurdle. The city of Oakland is not paying the relocation fee. The city of Oakland's hurdle and the real issue is the subsidy. Can it cough up $750 million? That was what it put in its face. There was no mention of that in the judge's brief. The judge screwed up. It was an abomination of it was abominably bad. Awful. He ought to be ashamed of himself. All right. And look, It's not the outcome. I could live with the outcome if he had a sound reason for his action that intellectually fit what happened, that factually fit what happened, but it didn't. It bore no resemblance to reality. John Mark says, City of Oakland should have offered land of the Coliseum in the NFL the Raiders. Yep. John Mark says, Joe Spiro doesn't know the case. He should have handed it to some other judge who knows better. Yep. My gosh. Hey, it's how you doing? It's Fatula. It's Gabby. I'm great. Are you still here? Yeah, we're up late. Welcome to my show. Should come on and do a live stream with me sometime. I'm always up late with these fellows and folks and everything else, talking about the Raiders issue, Las Vegas, the Stadium Authority, everything else. Where are you? Are you here? Where are you? But welcome. And what else? Then the Raiders says loans, borrow. What are the Raiders giving back up on record wise? Dang it. And John Mark says Clark County facing $1 billion deficit over this deal. Well, no. Time out. John Marks, it's not over the deal. Clark County is facing $1 billion deficit because the lion's share of its revenues to its general fund come from two sources. It's hotel tax, well, three sources: the hotel tax, sales tax, and property taxes. All right. The hotel tax basically pays for education in Clark County. I'm not kidding you. All right. So when hotel tax goes down, what goes down? Education. Hotel tax revenue is king. All right. It rivals I've never seen a place where hotel tax revenue rivals property tax revenue for what feeds the general fund of the municipality. But in Clark County and Las Vegas, that's the case. The pandemic, because of these hotel occupancy rates, which have dipped into the teens and in some cases the single digits, that's what's causing this projection of $1 billion loss, not the Raiders deal. All right, not that. Now it is $750 billion, and somewhere down the road, the county's going to wind up paying that, and so basically they would be in debt for almost $1 billion. So from that perspective, yeah, you'd be right, but it would still be because of the pandemic primarily, and a too small bond debt coverage reserve of only 56.8 million when it should be 90.2 million. Okay. Young B says Trump will pay off the debt. We're waiting. Okay. Well, look, I got my stimulus. I hope you got yours. A number of people I know here got theirs this week. So hopefully everybody did you get your stimulus? I hope so. I still think the stimulus should be bigger. FYI, the Democrats are working on a bigger stimulus of $2,000 per month. Keep your eyes open and your ears open, folks. The Raider says, I know it's fact fire sale for toys in Vegas are up for sale goodies. Jamal Mills. Oh, man, we still got to get together. Bro, we got to work that out. Of course, what I'm talking about now, we've got the shut-in place, although it did I know it did subside in the state, but we're staying in because my mom, I got an elderly mom, man, so I got to take care of her. Imako Folks says, is the NFL becoming like World Wrestling Federation? Well, WWE just filed for bankruptcy, so I certainly hope not. And I believe I've got all the comments. No, I didn't. Raiders SB, no, NFL is not becoming WWE. Not even close. Jamal Mills says, how is the NFL becoming like WWE? Good question. And Raiders SP says, Vince is still not canceling Monday Night Raw on TV. Jamal wants the question answered. And Raiders SP says, everything in WWE is scripted. He says he's an old school WWF fan. Phew, I got through all these comments. Wow. And not only that, hey folks, Gabby has a great if she's still around. Gabby, did you come and leave? I was going to give you a shout out about your new company. Tell people to buy from you. Do you have an affiliate program where I can make a little money if I talk about you? Don't see her here. I guess she took off. At any rate, who is? Yeah, I guess she took off. But she's got a great YouTube channel that you should check out. And in fact, as I say that, maybe trying to figure out here. Okay, maybe. Aha. Let's see if she's got. Yeah, she did. Okay, I'm going to give her a shout out right here. She launched her clothing company. All right, it's called Healthy Assets on January 30th of 2020. So hold on a second. I'm going to give her a little shout out here. Patrick in Blackman says the NFL. What did Patrick say here? Excuse me. Patrick says the NFL looked at Al as Don Corleone and looks at Mark like Fredo. I thought this from day one when I heard Mark would be the success when Al passes. I don't. Yeah, that's harsh, man. I wouldn't call Mark Fredo. For a lot of reasons that have to go through. I just wouldn't do that. At any rate, this is. I'm going to remove that from the stream, and I'm going to add this to. Let's see here if I can add my friend's video where she's talking about her new clothing company. I'll end by giving her this shout out. And here is Gabby, or it's Fatul on YouTube, talking about her new clothing company. There we go.
Since I've come on here and shared some content with you guys, but a lot has been happening. One, I launched my own clothing company. It's called Healthy Assets. Feel free to shop it at buildinghealthyassets.com. If you love Lululemon, Alphalete, Buff Bunny, the quality is everything. And it's super affordable. I'm actually wearing one of the tops we have on the site, but I have absolutely loved this journey. The names of the clothing represent women who are really, really close to me in my life and my Greek culture. So it's just been so awesome tying in something that's super passionate, like a passionate part of my life, being Greek, and health and fitness. And when you look good, you feel good, it all comes together. But the other thing I wanted to say is I've been working on trying to figure out what type of content I want to bring to you guys. So in the past, I've done a lot of travel content, but it's been like vlogger style, and I'm trying to grow this channel and bring you guys valuable information.
No, don't not be a vlogger. No.
That you're looking for. So if you're interested in specific videos, whether it's more fitness videos like I've done, or if you'd like to see like travel highlights, anything in this realm of lifestyle, let me know in the comments. And I'm ready to kick up this YouTube thing back in gear again. I love YouTube. It's been a huge passion of mine, even just having all these videos to look.
Me too. So check her out, folks. That's her channel. And give her a sub. Help her get to 1,000. She's if you get to 1,000, she becomes a YouTube partner. Okay, so it's Fotola, and she's got a company, Building Healthy Assets. Check her out. She's the lady that chimed in and to say hello. So it was very nice. So check her out. Okay. So at any rate, let's see here. Young B says, dang. Raiders SP says they had high ratings for WrestleMania. They're trying to make it for hardcore fans. All right. All right, folks. It is 2:05 in the morning. I thought that was a cool show, didn't you? I liked it. Yeah. I liked it. Cool. Anybody have any parting thoughts? Any shout outs you want to give before we shove off, Buffalo? Going once, going twice, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times. There's 21 of you watching, nothing to say. Nothing to write. Giving you your chance. All right. I know, there's this delay, isn't there? Okay. Oh, what's my email? It's this, Patrick, right here. That is my email. My email is on every site. Oakland News Now, as well. Oakland News Now, Zenny62.com. Jamal, you stay safe too, man. We'll be talking to each other, okay? All right, everybody. Thank you, and thank you, Gabby. Thank you for stopping by. God bless you. All right, see y'all.